Okay, folks, so let's share screen. And we'll go like this. We'll open up over here. All right, so plan for today is to do the straight track. And also, we'll just do a quick fly through of the two super easy pieces, the linkage arm, which is, I'd say probably 2 out of 5, and the hitch magnet, which is like 0 out of 5 on the difficulty scale. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I think everything's recording well. All right, and is that better? Let's see, I can't see a waveform. I think that's right. All right, so for hitch magnet, like I said, this is like a 0 out of 10 or 0 out of 5 on difficulty. It's just going to be a circle with a diameter of 0.45 and extruded 0.25, and that'll give us this big cylinder. And then on top of that, we'll put a sketch with a circle of 0.25 and cut extrude all. I guess you could do this all in one move. There's no reason that you do need 2 moves. Let's say 2 part features. And I suppose I'm sharing the correct screen. Hold on, let's just double check. Yeah, it looks right. Okay, so let's, I mean, this is such a simple part, it doesn't really matter what plane we start on, but let's go 0.45 for the outer diameter. And yeah, I never have really done it as a single extrusion, but make 2 circles, extrude, choose the part right here, and the length of extrusion is just 0.25. And so we will type that in, 0.25. There we go, hitch magnet done. Next one, linkage arm, is the only tricky part is that this dimension right here is a radius. TYP means typical, meaning in both locations, both sides that is. But this is a radius, and that is the outside dimension. Even though we're going to use a circle when we make it, its dimension is a radius because when it's done, it's not a complete circle. And the inner part is a diameter, and that's because when it's done, it is a full circle. But you just need to be aware of whether it's radius or diameter, the dimension they give you, and figure out if you're using a circle, whether or not you need to double it. The other thing that's super important is the distance between the center points of the hole is 3.5. That's the distance of from here to here. And that's super important because that's the distance between the wheels that these connect to. And if you make this distance, the distance from here to here, where these arcs start, if you make that 3.5, it won't work. The linkage arm will be too long because it'll extend by that amount. And the train assembly, when we actually do animate it and make it move, isn't going to work. I mean, we can fix it then. It's not super critical to stress, but let's just make it right the first time. So if we break this down into smaller geometries, I'm going to start with a rectangle that is 0.25 tall, 3.5 wide, and 0.125 extruded. So let's get a new default part file, start a sketch. XY is fine, rectangle, and just snapping to 0, 0 doesn't, it's not super critical. We'll do its width as 3.5, its height as 0.25, and finish sketch. And let's extrude it 0.125. Okay, and then the outside here, I'm going to make a circle that snaps to the center point of the side edge. And the circle is going to be dimensioned by its diameter. So we need to double this number. We can't do a extrusion of this outer part and the inner part at the same time, because the inner part actually cuts away what we already have a little bit. So we need to do that in the second move, but that's fine. And the diameter here is 0.1875, which we can just literally type in 0.1875 times 2. We'll start a sketch on this large face and get a circle. Make sure we snap it to the center point of this edge. 0.1875 times 2, which is 0.375, but you can just do the arithmetic in the dimension text window or dialog box. I don't know what it's called. Either way is fine. Let's finish sketch, extrude, choose this part. If you choose the center, it doesn't really matter. It's not like it's double material if you extrude back, but you do need to make sure to switch direction so that it extrudes in. Hit OK. And then the last part is the holes for the linkage pegs, which are 0.128 diameter and cut all the way through. Start a sketch on this face, get a circle, diameter 0.1875. Is that what it says? No, 0.128. We'll just double click to change it, 0.128. Another circle, 0.128, finish sketch. Extrude, choose the circle, choose this circle, switch it to cut and cut all, which it's the same dimension already, that's fine. And there you go, linkage arm, done. Okay, last piece, last part file is the straight track, which is a little bit complicated. The key is that you are seeing how this view relates to these views. There's a bunch of redundant dimensions here, but meaning you could sort of do it with just this or sort of do it with just these two, but they sort of work together. But let's break it down into smaller geometric chunks. The main part is a rectangle that's 12 long. The largest dimension here is 1, so that's height of 1, and its width is 3.4. So let's go ahead and just start with that. Doesn't really matter which plane you start on or which part of the rectangle that you make, but since I'm sketching the front, I'm going to make it 12 by 1, just because 12 by 1 tall, and then we'll extrude it 3.4. 3.4, and this is the main part. Now there are four other things. There's the sort of male end over here, the female end over here, which should connect if we had a bunch of these. And actually for our animation, we're gonna have several dimensioned together. And then there are the tracks for the wheels. And those are dimensioned here. These are stack dimensions, which the dimension to the one side of this track and the other side of this track, the one side of this track and the other side of this track are all dimensioned from the left side, which looks super clean when you are putting it in a drawing. And when we get to actually dimensioning drawing files, it will be one of the ways we do it. But you can kind of look at this, you can just look at this and see that the outside edge of this tread is 0.4 from its edge, and the outside edge of this tread is 0.4 from the outside. Okay. Also, you can sort of infer that it's symmetrical So there's that. Same thing here, 0.75 to the inside of this tread, and the difference between these two is the same. So you do need to use both of the dimensions. I'm going to work on these things first because I want to make sure I get the center point snap for these. And if I start cutting away these treads, the center point is going to change. So that's fine. We have to do these separately because one is a cut and the other is a, I guess it's called join. Create material. One is cutting material and one's creating material. And so let's do the one where we're creating material first. We have an arc. When we're done, it's an arc, which is why the dimension is a radius. But again, we're going to use a circle just like we use rectangles because they're always closed loops. They will always extrude. So we have a circle that is 1.4 in diameter, which is radius of 0.7. We have this throat part that is 0.6 wide, which is also going to be 0.3 each direction on center. The center point of the circle is 1 inch from what we already have, and the center point is 1.7 from the side, which again is just centered. So I'm going to start with a circle that's 1.4 for the circle and 1 inch out and centered left to right. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's start a sketch on the top. And we need a circle that's sort of out here. If you get close to the center, you'll get a soft snap, which is what those little marching ants are. And let's make a circle that's, oh no, wait, it's not 1, it's 1.4, excuse me. 1.4. And the distance from the center point back to the body part is 1. And even though we do have a soft snap, it's probably a good idea to put in the dimension to the side, which the distance from this point to this edge is 1.7. And what that just locks it in place. Dimensions, at least dimensions in part files, set the size of something, but they also lock it in, so it can't be changed by another thing. And so we just need the sort of throat part, which the easiest way to center it is to start at a center point, either this center point or this center point, and make it the distance from the center out, which this distance is going to be 0.3 in another rectangle, again from here back to here. And as long as it covers up all the way back to the material we already have, it doesn't matter that it overlaps into our circle. And the only other dimensions for this is radius 0.19, and that's because there's like a little curve here, which we could do before we extrude, but I want to do the part feature version of it. It tends to not mess up sketches as much, so we're going to wait on that. And actually, it's the same thing as this part. And you can see if you connected several of these together, those parts would be where they interact. This and this, we're going to do all 4 of those at the same time because they're the same dimension and the same part feature. It's going to be the fillet tool, which is what we would use. We'd use the sketch fillet here, but I can show you even if I do this 0.19, it actually won't even let me. Strange, because that dimension right there, we want to round over this and this. So actually, you can't even do it in the sketch. Never mind. So we have this. We're going to finish sketch and extrude everything we made all the way there. We want to switch direction, and the distance is 1. We could use the 2 TO, meaning like to the other side, but we know it's exactly 1, and that's fine. Okay, then on the other side, the cutaway is very similar. It's a little bit bigger. But once again, it is going to be a, well, it's an arc, which is why they give us the radius, but we're going to use a circle that's double it. And the center point is 1 inch from the edge, and just like the other one was, and 1.7 from the side, meaning centered. So we'll start with that. And then the rectangle part that makes sort of the throat of the cutaway is 0.65 wide, but it's centered. So we're gonna do the same thing where we make one rectangle on one side and another rectangle on the other side, half in each direction. That's the easiest way to center something. And so let's go ahead and start a sketch here. And we need a circle just somewhere on the face here. You don't want to snap it to an edge. It will mess things up. And the size of this circle is 0.75 times 2. And what else do we need? We need the distance of the center point to the edge is 1. And the distance for the center point left to right is 1.7 so that it's centered. And we need the throat part, which is just going to be a rectangle that I'm going to start at this center point. It goes all the way to the edge, and the dimension is half of 0.65, so 0.65/2, because it's supposed to be 0.65 wide, and we want it centered. We're starting from the center. And this one, same thing, 0.325. And that's it for what we need to cut away. Let's finish sketch, extrude, choose this, 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 and this. Switch it to cut, and it's already on 1 inch, which is what we want. And so those rounded over edges are this edge, and then the same, this edge and this edge, which are going to be rounded over with the fillet tool, and they are all 0.19. 0.19 times 4 means all 4 of them, not 0.19 multiplied times 4. And so we'll get the fillet tool. Let's set the dimension first so it doesn't mess things up, 0.19. And we want this edge, and it will actually let you choose the edge through the material, which we want the corresponding one here. So it's actually this one. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can just spin it around until you can see the edge that you want, which on this side is this one. And then I'll spin it all the way around. Oh, wait, one more. To this one. And we have 4 selected. These 2 here and these 2 here, all 0.19. Hit OK. All right, so the last part is the 2 notches, which there's actually a disparity. There's contradictory dimensions. We know how far they are from the edge, but the distance the cut is in, this one says the cut is 0.1875. And this one says the cut is actually 0.25. Since from the bottom of everything to the bottom of the trough is 0.25, and the whole thing, excuse me, it's 0.75, and the whole thing is 1. That means this is saying it's 0.25. It doesn't really matter which of those you do. Actually, let's do 0.25. Just so that we all have the same one, because it will make it easier later on for a particular issue with assembling. So we're going to put a sketch on the top face and make a rectangle that's this dimension and a rectangle that's this dimension, and then cut it all in 0.25, and that'll be it. So we need a sketch on top. At this point, there really isn't a top, but on the flat. And we want a rectangle that starts somewhere on this edge, but make sure you don't snap it to the green spot, because then you won't be able to change it. And that's not, wait, is that the right location? Huh, it actually is the right location as long as you go up. Because, all right, so it is this, if I start with a rectangle right here, you can see it says y equals negative 0.7. That means it's 0.7 away from this point, which is our 0, 0. And let's just don't snap it to a green spot just so we can change things. But you do want to snap it to an edge here because our rectangle, we want that trough to be the full cut. So you just need a snap here and a snap over here somewhere, again, not the green. And the only dimensions we need are the distance from this side of the rectangle to the edge of everything needs to be 0.4. And the distance of this side of the rectangle to the side of everything needs to be 0.7. Notice that this dimension is not the distance between the two. It's the distance from one side, from the inside of the rectangle to the outside of everything. And we could do a mirror. If this was a super complicated shape, it would make sense to use the mirror tool to not have to do it twice, but it's so simple, it's actually easier just to do it twice than it is to get out the mirror tool. Same thing, another rectangle from the inside to the edge of everything is 0.7, and from the outside, and it's the outside if you're like standing on it, I guess, I don't know. The other side is 0.4, and we'll finish sketch. Extrude, choose just our new rectangles, switch it to cut, and we're going to cut 0.25, and that's it. There you go. There is the straight track and the linkage arm and the hitch magnet. All right, good luck.